the Just City session of our Fit for Future conference. My name is and I will be your host of this session. So yeah, I hope you're comfortably seated and please enjoy the Just City session. What the Fit for Future conference is about was already told you in the sessions before, so I will directly kick in what is happening in this session. We will start with a short introduction by HEIKE from the German Association for Housing, Urban and Spatial Development, what the Just City in the Leipzig chart and the new Leipzig chart is about, and also what has been discussed in the process of defining it. And afterwards, we will have 4 presentations of, to my mind, very interesting, also inspiring projects from 4 different cities in Europe, one from Barcelona, one from Brussels, one from Essen, and one from Gdansk. I guess these examples will provide you a better understanding what the Just City in practice is about. And yeah, finishing this session then, after the presentations, we will have a closing panel discussion with the speakers, trying to trigger some further information, what makes these projects particular. And also we'll try to answer your questions, the question of the audience. So if you have a question which may come up during the presentations, please put them in Slido and also to whom you refer the question and how to access Slido. You have seen on the welcome site of this session, and also information is provided in the YouTube video description below the screen of the YouTube screen. So here you can see how to enter Slido, and yeah, feel free, feel invited to put your questions, and then in the panel discussion we will take them up and yeah, try to respond them. So with this very brief introduction, I would like to pass on to HEIKE from the German Association to introduce us to the Just City.
Okay, also from my side, a warm welcome to everyone to the very last session of today. I would like to start with just give you a first an impression of the Leipzig Charter for those who don't know it yet or have not read the draft. Just in a nutshell, what is the new Leipzig Charter about? How is it like structured? So as you can see it here, we have 5 key principles for a good urban development, which you can see on the left, which is integrated approach, for example, but also common good, urban policy for the common good, or participation and co-creation. And in the middle, this is the yellow highlighted one. You see the 3 dimension of the city, which is correspondent to our sessions which we had today, which is the Just City, the Green City, and the Productive City. And this is all like implemented on 3 spatial levels, in the neighborhood level and in the cities and also in the wider functional areas. And on the button, you can see more or less what is important for cities, what frameworks do cities need to have cities which are fit for future, which framework conditions are necessary, like policies and so on. Here you can see that the green, the productive, and the Just City correspond more or less to the sustainability model, which most of you will know. And it's also very important to notice that digitalization, which we kind of discussed first to make it also a dimension, but we decided that digitalization is a cross-cutting issue and that this is important for all sections. So you can see it's like the circle around it. And it's also very important to mention that these 3 dimensions are equally important and they are very closely interlinked. So now about the Just City. Perhaps most of you yet heard about the Productive City and about the Green City. What's the Just City about? So in the Leipzig Charter, we pointed out that, to sum it up, the Just City is a city for all, leaving no one behind. That means, and you, beside the points you find here, it's also important to mention that the Just City also covers the big trends like demographic change or migration issues. And a Just City is a city which offers equal opportunities for everyone, like and also equal access to public services, which is not pointed out here, but is a very important issue too, is that a Just City also offers access to affordable housing. We will hear today 2 examples for solutions for affordable housing. And it's also about stable and safe neighborhoods. This topic was also very highlighted in the former Leipzig Charter of 2007. And we included this point again in the new Leipzig Charter. And of course, this is the last point here. It's very important to offer education and skills for everyone. This is also a point which we had also in the productive city. And just to show you that it was not a own single person who wrote the Leipzig Charter, this was a very big process with institutions and persons from Europe and Germany, and we had many sessions where we discussed all the principles and the dimensions together, and in meetings and conferences, and now with Corona online. And yeah, thanks for this common work to everyone who participated. Yeah, and now the Leipzig Charter is only living with the cities who implement it. So, and we are very happy that there are many cities which yet are doing this. And so I will give back to Nils, who will, and to you, who will present us your very good examples. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your brief explanation what the Just City is about. So I take out that key features of the Just Cities are, you mentioned inclusive and affordable housing, you mentioned equal access to social services. Also, when I read the new Leipzig Charter, the part of the Just City, also for me it struck, or I'm reminded that it was also in particular about the integration of vulnerable and social groups. So this is a very important aspect. And yeah, the 4 upcoming projects which will be presented now, I think will be fine examples of these features of the Just City. So one project which is going to present it will be Habitat 3, which is about affordable housing for vulnerable people in Barcelona. And we will have a presentation about CALICO and the Community Land Trust in Brussels. And also very interesting, the case of SynAthina, which is an online participation platform from Athens. And we will also have a presentation how the city of Gdansk, which tools, which policies they use for social innovation and social inclusion in Gdansk. So these are the 4 presentations which will come up by now. And here again, the reminder, if you have a question about these projects, question to the speakers, please put them in Slido, and then during the final panel discussion, we will try to answer them and to steer them to the corresponding speaker. So, Natalia Martinez, a very warm welcome to you, and very nice being with us, sharing your project Habitat 3, which also has won a World Habitat Award in 2019. And Natalia Martinez works since 2015 for the Habitat 3 Foundation in Barcelona. She is head of the Homes Acquisition Department. And we will start with an introduction video about the Habitat 3 project to give you first an idea what this project is about. And afterwards, I will have a chat, an interview with Natalia to provide some further information about the project. So Hauke, if you could start the video, please. Yeah, Natalia, thank you very much for sharing this video with us as introduction. So taking from your video, your project, your work seems to me very much about to provide in partnership with the city council affordable and social housing for vulnerable people. And you do this by acquiring empty homes. And then what I think is very interesting that you use the renovation of the homes to train socially excluded people to have better job opportunities. And for this, then you work with the social enterprises. And you work then also in partnership with local charities to provide services then for the future tenants and to help them to have a better life. So yeah, very important sounds to me that you work in partnership with these local charities, with these social enterprises, and also, I guess, the city council. So could you tell me and the audience how this works to work in this partnership and also the benefits that come from these partnerships?
Hello, Neil, and hello, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for inviting us here today to share the project and also to learn from other projects that somehow contribute to a just city. Yes, one of the elements, of the key elements of Habitat 3's work is the network of alliances. The program that you have seen is one of the programs that Habitat 3 runs, one of the main programs, and is the one that got the award. And it's done in partnership with social organizations. And also we run another main program, which is in partnership with the city councils. And is in this working with both the public and the non-lucrative sector, and many times also with the support of private companies that we can develop our work. We have a very good relationship with the Catalan government through the Agency of Housing. Both they lease so they can carry out their projects of inclusion. And Habitat 3 has a major role in the process of letting the social organizations know about these properties, visiting them, providing with technical reports, and helping out these social organizations to actually access these apartments. And also the Agency of Housing is supporting which is the possibility to acquire homes that are sold by financial institutions or banks when these properties come from foreclosures. People who could not pay the mortgage, it was foreclosed. The government has the right to buy, and this right can be also exercised by city councils or social organizations such as
Sorry, Natalia. At the moment, we cannot understand you. It was interrupted, what you've said. So maybe if you could try to repeat, or if it's not getting better, that you can switch off the video. So maybe then it's easier to hear you.
I should do that. I should do that. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so maybe can try like what you said the last minute. If you could repeat this would be nice.
Okay, so to sum up, the Catalan government through the Agency of Housing supports with the both with the leasing of housing units that belong to the agency, and also helping social such as Habitat 3 to actually buy properties that come from banks and financial institutions. We have a close relationship with Barcelona City Council and other city councils in the Barcelona region and beyond, because these homes that we either buy or get a lease from the private sector, from private owners that lease the apartments to us, we make them available to either social organizations or city councils. We do not rent directly to people, but we make these homes available to either social organizations or city councils, and they choose and they decide who the families or the people that are going to live in these apartments. Also, we have a very good relationship with in Catalan, the non-profit sector is together in a sort of, we call it the table of the third sector, and the federations that are members of this entity, and that gives us access to many social organizations that need homes to develop their projects. And I think our relationship with social organizations has a double social value, because one is the ability to provide homes and to provide support to the people that live in these homes that are usually within the most vulnerable in society, but also because we do the renovation of our apartments, collaborating with social enterprises that provide training and job opportunities to people that are also in the risk of exclusion. And finally, with private companies, we get support. We get they help us when we need expertise, and also they give us some financing, some grants. So I think that one of the reasons that we were giving the award last year is because of this ability to connect so many different actors.
Thank you. I mean, an important part is that you have to acquire the empty homes. And so another question I have is, how do you acquire these empty homes and how do you finance it? Because I guess properties, so far I know, are rather expensive in Barcelona, and this way I think it's a hard competition to get them. So yeah, what helps you, or what are your advantages that you can get hold of these properties?
Well, Barcelona, as you all know, is a prime real estate market, and yes, properties are expensive, but also Barcelona has many Barcelonas. Not all the apartments are so highly priced, both for sale or for rent. We have two main ways of acquiring properties. One is to get private landlords, private owners, to lease the properties to us. And they do that somewhat at a low or moderate price, not necessarily a social price, but slightly above. Slightly below average regarding to the market. And then these apartments, we mainly make them available to city councils, and then the city councils provide a sort of housing benefit, and that means that they cover the difference between what Habitat 3 pays to the landlord and what the actual tenants pay. That is it's an amount that has to do with the income this family has. So they do not pay a price according to how much the apartment is worth, but how much they can pay regarding to their income. We have now about 7 to 10 different projects with different city councils, and that's the way we can finance this gap between the cost of the apartment and the actual rent that tenants pay. And also, we actually buy apartments, and we've got two main ways of doing so. One is banking, loans that come from banks. Mainly, it's been one of the main banks in Catalonia, which is La Caixa, that gave us financing to a mortgage to buy apartments. And the other one is the one that I mentioned before, that the Catalan government has organized financing through the Catalan Institute of Finance. So we can social organizations such as Habitat 3 can actually have enough financing to buy apartments. And right now we own 84, and altogether we manage 550. So we have about a little around 20% of the homes we manage we own.
So how is then Habitat 3, how are you, Habitat 3, how are you organized and financed in general? I mean, you need personnel for all this, and it will be not just one person, it will be many persons. So how do you get this organized?
As a foundation or charity, Habitat 3 has a board of patrons. Most of these patrons represent federations of social organizations within the Catalonia region. These federations hold together different social organizations in areas such as disability, mental health, drug addictions, social inclusion. And also we have independent experts. So the board of patrons sets the long-term strategy and also ensures fidelity to our mission. We have the luck that our chair lady is a former Catalan Secretary of Housing, and she's a recognized expert in housing and policy management, and housing management, and she's been opening doors for us. And then we have a CEO, an executive board to carry on the strategy. And then we have different technical teams working in homes acquisition, homes management that has to do with contracts, renovation and maintenance, and also tenant support, which is very important. And then finances and communication. So very much we work like any other company or social organization that has a structure. And then the financing comes within the program of city councils. Usually the city council finances the cost of the program. It's been studied that when cities face situations of foreclosures and people losing their homes, any form of providing home for people that have lost their home is rather expensive. And at the end of the day, the least expensive policy is to try and find a home on the market, try and secure a not very expensive lease, and that's generally cheaper than having to provide other kinds of shelter. Also, the Catalan Agency of Housing has a line of subsidies for inclusion housing. And since most of our homes are for people in vulnerable situations, we can access this subsidy. And also we have private companies, grants and donations. And finally, we have also a line of housing consulting and studies that we do sometimes for other city councils or other companies that consult us on the housing management and the social housing areas.
Well, I think it's very interesting that you stress that in a way your services, of course, have to be paid, but in a way it saves money in other parts. So in a way it's really equalizing, so it doesn't need to cost really much more for the municipality. What I would like to know, another question I have is, how did it started? I mean, who took the first step? And also, I mean, to get all the partnership together, like, yeah, how did it started? And if you would restart it, or if you had to restart it again, so how would you do it? What would you recommend to other cities how to start such a project as Habitat 3?
Well, usually foundations start because someone or some people actually set some money to start a project. In this case, it wasn't so much money as good ideas. As I mentioned before, Catalunya, there's this body, the table of the third sector, la taula del tercer sector, that gets together many social organizations within the Catalan region. And one of the working groups of this body was a housing development group. And they thought it'd be necessary, it'd be good to have a foundation, to have an organization that could act as a getter or provider of homes for other social organizations. And also that could be good that the non-lucrative sector, the organizations that work with people in vulnerable situations, could also have an input in city councils and regional councils policies. So it was a need detected by the non-lucrative sector, by the social sector, and that was the first putting in motion the fact that Habitat 3 started. And then I think it was instrumental, the fact that there was an agreement signed with the City Council of Barcelona that took the lead in trying to work out imaginative and new solutions to the problem of the foreclosures and so many people without a home. Currently, there's a waiting list of 600 families waiting for homes. And this happens in a context in which the public owned housing is very, very limited. We have around 2% of the total stock. And if we compare it with other countries within our area, with other countries in Europe, we could say that it's around 15. So you can see there's a big gap between the need of house and the public housing provision. So this idea of trying to find homes in the private market, trying to secure moderate price leases, and providing a housing benefit so people could pay according to their income was a good idea, and it's been working over 5 years. We've gone from just starting to about 130 homes at the end of the 2015, and we are around 550 homes now.
That honestly sounds a lot of apartments. So, and I guess, key to us is this partnership, what you talked about in the very beginning. But I guess what I know from my field working that, bringing in the beginning these partners together and get on the same track and really, work together well. So what problems and difficulties did you encounter in bringing up this partnership? And what have been your solutions to make it really work?
Well, I guess that the need to find solutions was very clear. So there was a drive in trying to work out agreements and these new ways of doing things. I think also that the fact that as I said, the chair lady of our foundation was involved in policy making at the Catalan level, knows many people, and is highly respected, open a lot of doors. As you said, the agreement with the council in Barcelona, and then I think a lot of and a lot of we were very involved, all the technical team in the organization, trying to make things work, and especially trying to develop these new ways of doing things, and getting the procedures and being able to both provide homes and also providing support directly when we work with city councils or through other social organizations. So I think that when the need is very clear, and it's very clear that homes are needed, when there's a possibility of finding a way of putting, if not many, but at least a few of those homes that are needed, bring people together. And also willing to learn from other people and other ways of doing things and other ways of thinking, and also being able to bring together different expertise and different experiences in working with people in vulnerable situations, and in our case with working with housing and being able to manage housing. So bringing that together, expertise on the support to people and the expertise on the housing management, I think was key to these, reasonably smooth running of things.
There's a question from the audience, and I think we can take it in now. And the question is, what is the time frame of the affordable housing policy, and how long is it designed for?
Well, the first, if we take the agreement with the Barcelona City Council, it works in 4 years to installments. So we had a first agreement in 1914. We've had a second agreement in 2019, so it's a bit more than 1 year ago. And this second agreement has a possibility of being extended to 4 more years. So it seems ongoing thing. The program with the city councils, especially with Barcelona, started with the idea that it be a provisional way of providing homes, leaving the city time to actually either build or buy homes. And 4 years later, those homes, if built or bought, were needed by other families. So the program is ongoing. We are certain that it's going to extend for 4 more years, and we'll see. Hopefully, at some point, it's not necessary. So at some point, we would like for more long-term solutions. But being able to channel apartments from the private market, sometimes apartments that are not in good condition, in good shape to be rented. So some renovations have to be made. And as we will see in words of Leilani Farah, that you will show the video in a few moments, she talks about this paradox of many people without homes and many empty homes. So this idea of bringing together the empty homes and the people that need homes is a good thing. And the policy by the Catalan government that allows for the purchase of properties that are being sold by banks, it's an ongoing thing as well, and it'll probably last as long as there are properties in that the banks own and are selling that come from foreclosures.
Okay, well, thank you very much for this glance into your Habitat 3 project. So if you, the audience, if you would like to know more about the project, when you take a look in the speaker's booklet, there you also find 3 further links which provides you with some information. So, and to end this information about Habitat 3, Natalia, she just mentioned, she brought us another video in which Leilani Farah explains in her words what Habitat 3 is about and makes it special to her. So, Hauke, if you could please start this video.
Offer my congratulations to the 2 winners of the 2019 Habitat Awards. These 2 projects exemplify innovation in the way they approach their work and contribute to the realization of the right to housing in very different ways. I'm always amazed at the creativity and efficacy of on-the-ground advocacy that I see, and that I'm so lucky to see every day in my job as Special Rapporteur as I travel the world. And I am particularly heartened when those advocacy efforts are aimed at benefiting the most vulnerable populations. And I think both of the award winners' projects are very much in keeping with that vision and with that outcome. Viviendas para las entidades sociales is a really important project and very kind of current, in my opinion. So many housing conversations in cities across the globe center on the irony that there are often many vacant buildings, on the one hand, empty, abandoned, and many people living in homelessness or desperately in need of some kind of accommodation or better accommodation. And Habitat 3's Viviendas project sort of breaks the irony and brings together those 2 things. Acting as an intermediary in this area is such a brilliant positioning and so important because it's such a difficult terrain to travel, how to make use of these properties. So by bringing together the owners with social organizations that can actually revitalize these buildings and help to house the most vulnerable people and provide social supports for them is such a needed thing in the here and now when so many people are talking about a lack of housing supply. And this is a way in which to reclaim buildings and put them to use toward ensuring the realization of the right to adequate housing for the most vulnerable populations. So a heartfelt thanks for your work. And I will say that I think this project could be scalable at a global level. I certainly will take this project with me to other places I visit and talk about it, because I think it makes such a valuable and important contribution right now.
Yeah, Natalia, thank you very much, and please stay with us for the panel discussion later. And now we come to the project CALICO and the Community Land Trust in Brussels, which will be presented by Arthur CADY, and he's the project manager of CALICO. And yeah, Arthur, the digital screen is yours, and Jonas, please start the presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, just to be more precise, I work for the Community Land Trust of Brussels, which is co-manager of the CALICO project with the City of Brussels. And so I will present the Community Land Trust of Brussels and then the project CALICO itself. So to start, a few principles. What is a community land trust? What does it do in an urban setting? HEIKE mentioned in the beginning that the Leipzig and the Just City idea is also about affordable housing. This is our main purpose, but there's a lot more subtlety behind it, and there are more activities. Can we go back to the previous slide, please? Thank you. So just quickly to go through the main ideas. What is the purpose of a community land trust? Protects land and housing from real estate speculation. That's by taking the land outside of the market. I'll explain more later. It makes permanently affordable housing for lower income households. And I'd like to add for a lot lower price than other home ownership social housing schemes. And then it also gives the citizens a chance to claim back their own cities. Can we go to the next slide, please? I'll go into more detail on all those aspects. So at its core, what is the concept of community land trust? It's the capacity to take housing units, to put the land in a trust, so in the case of the Belgian system, a foundation, a public utility foundation, and then to sell the housing part to a family at a social price. So we have a family, a waiting list of families that are on a certain set of criteria of revenue, of income, of ownership, and so on. And because when we sell to them the home, they have the what's called the bundle of rights, so they're actually owners of their homes. When they resell it, there is a clause that says that they cannot sell it above a certain level. So if you look at the drawing here, at the top is the housing that is sold to a first family for a low price, is resold to a second family for a low price as well, and so on and so on. And on the bottom, you have the land that is permanently off market. It cannot be speculated on, it cannot be bought. It's a guarantee for the future. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So another core principle of a community land trust is that it's a participative endeavor. This is the administrative council, it's representation. A third of it is of people of public powers, so local officials. A third of the administrative council is composed of inhabitants of the housing projects of the CLTB. And the other third is of representatives of the civil society and neighbors. So when I say neighbors, for example, we have someone who's been active in a local neighborhood association for the promotion of his own neighborhood and who's in our administrative council. Can we go to the next slide, please? We try to involve, because we believe it's not just about housing, but about helping people, choose the way they want to live and not just sell the homes, but involve our future inhabitants. We do certain types of training to home ownership because some of the candidates do not know much about property ownership, co-ownership. So we accompany them in that process. And in addition, we try to involve them in the architectural process. The picture you see here is what we call the Archilab. It's a moment where the inhabitants, the future inhabitants or the candidates, review the architectural proposal for housing units. It helps us make the beneficiaries be part of the place they're going to live in. We think it's fair. Can we go to the next slide, please? And it's part of the DNA of the Community Land Trust of Brussels. It's to build the community, build the city, involve people in their city, and bring them with us. We did a few things, like we did biking classes for our members and so on. And here you have the picture of a group of African women from Congo, Guinea, and all that, who were candidates for housing and also wanted to put together, and we helped them put together their own catering company. So if you come to Brussels, you can find them on Facebook and try their food. It's pretty good. Next slide, please. And the community land trust, it's also a movement. It is really like, as you saw in the second slide, it's really a model. So it can be replicated anywhere. Sometimes you have to adapt the law to allow it, but that's part of the idea as well. The image you see here is from the Interreg Northwest Europe project called Sustainable Housing for Inclusive Communities and Cities, which is a project that the Community Land Trust of Brussels manages with the city of Lille from northern France. And the goal is to spread the community land trust, help create community land trust in new cities. You can see on the map on the right where it's spreading and disseminating, including one in Berlin that is currently being put together. People from Berlin will know that Berlin needs affordable housing solutions right now. Can we go to the next slide, please? And then we move on to CALICO, so the project for which I'm the coordinator, main coordinator administrative for the community land trust. I precise for the community land trust because, as you can see, it's a wide partnership. We have really associations, from militant associations from the ground, which are very new, and it's also a partnership with the Brussels region. So it's a pretty wide project with a lot of actors. I should have put, but you can go to calico.brussels and check the websites of every partner and learn more about them. I would not delve too much on that. Can we go to the next slide, please? And yeah, and now we will show you a short video that presents the CALICO project better than I would right now. Thank you.
For months, Joanna had been dreaming of finding a dwelling for herself, her little girl Munia, and her son Sammy. Yes, it's hard for a single woman with 2 children to find decent housing in a city like Brussels. But thanks to the CALICO co-housing project, she has just moved into a good quality and affordable flat. Since then, Joanna has dropped by to say hello to Marcel every Saturday. At the age of 84, the CALICO project has been a turning point for him. Being cared for at home, he can enjoy a rich social life and give some of his time to his neighbours. Like everybody in the neighbourhood who wishes to, when the time comes, he will be welcomed in the end-of-life facility by Pass Ages, a partner organisation that supports people at the end of their life, as well as future parents in welcoming their baby. Here, every moment of life is shared, and generations come together. And indeed, this evening, neighbours have met up in the common area to share a meal organised by Maria and Ibrahim. This is where they talk and dream together. At last, there is an innovative formula that interacts with the neighbourhood and meets the expectations of everyone. Thanks to the CLTB, it is possible to buy or rent a dwelling without speculation on land managed as a common good. Here, there is a place for everyone. The gender balance is encouraged by Angela D., a feminist organisation that supports vulnerable or isolated women. CALICO is a 34 housing units project in Forest. It came about thanks to the impulse of Brussels Housing and the combined energies of all partners involved. CALICO is a different way of living together. Care and living in community. With the support of Urban Innovative Actions.
Thank you. You can watch the video on YouTube again later if you want, and share it. Please do share it. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So in a nutshell, what is CALICO? So you've seen the video, you get an idea. It's a lot of things together at one. It's extremely innovative. We'll just go on a few details that make it a bit unique compared to our other projects. So you see it's 5 main categories, let's say, if we want to be very rough: affordable housing, integrated in the neighborhood, accompanying the beneficiaries, maybe training is not the right word, but with a community care and a gender aspect. I'll just stop on the affordable housing part. There's also rental housing for people over 55, people who cannot get a social mortgage usually because we do home ownership, so they still need to get a mortgage even if it's a social rate. There are housing first units for people who know housing first. We always do some kind of like community space for local association, but in CALICO there'll be 2 of them, and one open for the inhabitants if they want to use it as a common space, and then one open to the neighborhood for local associations if they want to do something in the building. We've also a semi-private garden behind the building, and the beneficiaries are trained. One specificity here is there's also gender sensitivity training. Then there's the community care aspect, so people. It's a whole concept. I will not delve on it too much. And the birth and end of life facility. It's also the only place apparently in the world where you have a birth facility. It's a place for people to give birth, and an end of life facility. So a place for people to pass away in a familiar environment next to each other. It's extremely innovative and very important too. There is a gender aspect. There is a certain amount of housing units which will be reserved for women, because as women are more precarious than men, when they are in a precarious housing situation, they're even more precarious, in bigger precarity. So there is a feminist aspect in CALICO. Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, this is a general summary of the project, of all the spaces in it. I think we can go to the next one. And that's basically it. If you're interested in the community land trust movement, I suggest you find our latest book. It has all the latest updates as to where CLTs are created, where the movement is going, and what are the latest updates. I think that's 15 minutes, or was I too long or too fast? There's time for questions. Because it's a lot of information every time. It's a bit... It's a bit difficult to fit everything.
You did not use your 15 minutes, so you're really speeding through presenting your project. Okay. So, but yeah, we have later on also more opportunity to tell a little bit more about the project, but I think it's a really interesting one, because what strikes me with CALICO, in particular also with the community land trust, that you're using legal tools to end or to reduce speculation with housing. And then this, you ensure affordable housing for really long term. So it's not, just this is a program and it works for 5 years. No, you have applied, or you're applying a tool which, really makes it for nearly forever, maybe affordable. So I think this is a very interesting approach. And for example, in Germany, you work a lot on how to keep rents low, but you also work on how to keep the price of selling a building affordable, and through this, keeping rents low. I think it's an interesting approach. And I think also what you share with the Habitat 3 project is that it's not just about housing, it's also about housing and providing social service or services in general. May it be organized by social institutions, or may it be even organized in between and the community which you involve. So I think that's also a very important part, and I think also very good representative of the Just City. And there's also a question from the audience, which I would like to pass on to you. And the question is, would you be available to provide the price of such accommodation?
So it depends how much you earn. The price will never be more than a third of your income. The way it works, because it's also, there's a lot of different details that come together to make it work. One of them is that we receive a subsidy per square meter, and this finances the land, basically buying the land, and then we sell the houses, and that's how the financing comes together. But the amount we receive per square meter, we kind of, we sell some apartments above it and some apartments below it. So we managed to reach very low income people, and then we have to sell to more higher social ceilings, social ceiling people. So I don't know if that's very clear, but the price will completely depend on your revenue. But it's quite under market anyway. It's definitely social prices for home ownership. When you're on the upper brackets, it's the people who are more like lower middle class will come into the projects. It might be more interesting for them to buy on the private markets, but sometimes they're also just interested in the building city in a different way. So we still manage to find tenants. buyers actually, not tenants.
And I mean, this is always what I'm interested in. How have you started this, or how did it start it? I mean, what kind of glimpse is needed? Was it really planned? Was it by casualty? So how did it start that, the Community Land Trust came up in Brussels and you start with CALICO? And also, how are you now financed at the moment?
How did it start? Originally, it's a group of people working with people who had trouble finding housing. Brussels is a city with enormous income gap between neighborhoods, which is gentrifying at a frightening speed. With 30% of people in Brussels are under the poverty level or at risk of poverty, and it's also the city of the European Commission with very high salaries, but in completely another neighborhood. So there is that kind of those two opposing forces, and so there's a group of activists that got together and tried to find solution to preserve some neighborhoods that were being completely gentrified. And they learned about the community land trust experience from the UK and from the US. And they tried it, and it was possible to do in Belgium because there is a special law that is actually a remnant from the time when Belgium was Dutch and then it passed French, and so there is a certain law that stayed and that allowed to build that model. So it was really how to say, it came together at one point. It was possible, but it's managed to disseminate, notably in France, where a French deputy came to the Community Land Trust of Brussels to observe how it worked, passed a law in France, and now you can do a Community Land Trust in France because there was that exchange of practice between the Community Land Trust of Brussels and the previous French government, not the current one. But yeah. And then your other question was how do we get financed now? We still get a subsidy per square meter for the housing units we develop, and the rest is financed from the sale of the homes. In the case of CALICO, we're financed in big part by the Urban Innovative Actions Fund.
Okay, well, yeah, thank you for your insight into CALICO and the Community Land Trust. So also please stay with us for the panel discussion at the end. So now I would like to rush from Brussels to Athens to welcome DINA NTZIORA, Amalia Sepu, Ioana Tali, and Harry BISKOS. So this time 4 people to present their project in Athena. And also I understood you will also talk about your newest project during the limbo. And not even that, you also will give voice to people that have been involved in the project. So you have invited further guests to speak now and give their own statements and experiences about the project. So yeah, I'm very curious how you will all manage this. Good luck with this, and I'm really very keen on the information you will provide to us.
Great. Thank you, Nils. Thank you everyone for the invite. It's a great pleasure to be among such brilliant projects, and we're really happy to see the conference going ahead despite the current difficulties. So my name is DINA NTZIORA. I'm a creative placemaking producer and collaborator with SynAthina. So I will be moderating this panel today to present SynAthina's work. SynAthina is, Harris will tell us a lot in a minute, but just a quick introduction. SynAthina is a common space which brings together and supports and facilitates citizens' initiatives to improve the quality of life in the city. But it's not just a digital platform, it's a lot more than that. It's a space of trust and experimentation where opportunities for co-creation, participation, bringing together creativity and a common vision between everyday citizens of all different backgrounds, new and old citizens, civil society organizations and the local public and private sector come together. We decided today to do this micro panel to present our work because we really wanted to portray as much as we can the diversity and multiplicity of the project and the range of beneficiaries and people involved, which is from local authority, policymakers, the civil society, the public and the private sector, but most importantly, all citizens of Athens, old and new, no matter the social or ethnic background. all of them working together to prototype solutions. So it's all constantly, if you like, a work in progress process. So we have today Haris BISKOS today with us, architect and urban designer, head of SynAthina, Ioana Dali, communications and development, and Amalia Zepu, founder of SynAthina and former vice mayor for civil society and innovation here in Athens. I will pick up from the Leipzig Charter. Key principles for good governance mentioned, and very truly mentioned, are participation, co-creation amongst the local authorities, civil servants and the wider community, together with a strong place-centered approach. So I'd like to start with Haris to tell us a little bit more about SynAthina. How has it helped Athens to come together to prototype various solutions for city challenges? And how does SynAthina look today to you? Harry, you're muted.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
You're good.
Is it okay?
Yeah, you're all good.
First of all, thank you for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here, and Dina, thank you for the introduction. I think that each city faces its own challenges and has its own particularities, specificities, assets, resources, which lead to different shapes and types of co-creation practices and results. SynAthina is a public platform for civic engagement, as Dina said, and it's based in Athens municipality. It was born from the need to channel the collaborative energy found in the city of Athens during the last decade, the decade of austerity, to solve urban problems and ignite systemic changes in the city government towards more inclusive decision-making processes. During this time, Athens has been witnessing a phenomenon of city collectives, various grassroots initiatives, citizens groups, taking action for cities' pressing challenges and everyday challenges. And we have been witnessing all those spots of actions dispersed here and there in the city, informal, sometimes even illegal, but also fast, responsive, and many times producing some kind of raw, rough innovation, acting in ways that the municipality was not able to intervene in the city. From the cleaning my park outside my apartment, to initiating a vibrant community center next to the obsolete, deteriorating public community centers of the municipality, or creating a street work network that supports people who live in the streets. That are some examples that citizens do in Athens. And we have been witnessing this phenomenon becoming larger and larger and touching all kinds of people, no matter their age or background. Athens could be described as an urban landscape of a diverse collective intelligence. And this even became, sometimes an exotic experience for people visiting Athens, only to discover the local grassroots of the city. Now, SynAthina worked to create a system, worked to create a structured system that would be able to put city government and those independent initiatives, those active citizens and other stakeholders of the city to work around the needs and challenges of their urban environment. So SynAthina crafted and has been following a very systematic methodology of work. It has a toolbox that consists of a responsive crowdsourcing digital platform where citizens share their public initiatives online, creating a dynamic digital archive of collaborative actions in the city, where the municipality, leadership, and the city services can all see those different actions that citizens initiate for their neighborhoods. It uses participatory practices such as open calls, empowering seminars, collaborative workshops, capacity building, place-making models, and with its team of people that sits in the municipality of Athens, it designs urban and social innovation prototypes. Now, those prototypes are based on methods of co-creation and have the aim to increase the capacity of the city in policy making and bring systemic change to the way the government runs the city. Since its beginning, the SynAthina has created a large network of those community groups, over 450 community groups who are participating online in its digital platform, and has developed together with those initiatives and others that do not wish to be inside the municipality's radar, that they want to be autonomous, and still develops participatory models for a number of challenges that the city has been facing? Has it been the municipality's anti-tagging strategy, where SynAthina piloted a model bringing donors, business owners, experts, city services, and local community in a decentralized network to clean up the infinite tagged surfaces of the city? Today, this model, or part of this model, has grown up in scale and is being used by the present administration to clean the Athenian street? Or has it been a model for the sustainable, long-lasting reactivation of empty publicly owned properties? It has been testing different models. Now, today, what does SynAthina look like? Today, SynAthina is working over a model of social integration for migrants and refugees that have asylum and live in Athens, as one of the flag activities of the project Curing the Limbo, that is funded by Urban Innovative Actions and runs through in the municipality of Athens. This prototype, which is called Co-Athens, empowers refugees and locals through a series of different forms of participatory workshops, capacity building seminars, and open calls to develop together, co-create actions that improve the Athenian neighborhoods and respond to local city needs. And those actions, we have been selecting 9 collaborative projects, and we have been nurturing 9 collaborative projects, from pop-up kitchens, placemaking through football tournaments, participatory community, music communities, etc.
Great. Thank you, Haris. And Haris mentioned the Co-Athens project, which is what currently SynAthina is working on. And Victoria Square project is a group that SynAthina has been working particularly closely, and they're now heading together into a new partnership through Co-Athens initiative. Victoria Square project is the evolving social sculpture created by artists Rick Lowe and Maria Papadimitriou, and started under the framework of the International Art Festival Documenta 14. It is a physical space in a previously empty shop in a neighborhood of Athens called Victoria, which is highly populated by migrants and refugee groups. And the project aims to become a catalyst for highlighting the importance of culture, art and creativity in order to build a more humane society. So we have together today with us Ioanna. Would like Ioanna to ask you, from the point of view of a collective, of a city collective, and a person who has been leading and participating in those collaborative projects in Athens, do you feel that you have come closer to the city administration, and how do you see in the long term this relationship developing between the city and the citizens?
So thank you, Dina and SynAthina team, for the invitation. It is actually a special presentation for us. Project enters a new era in which our collaboration with SynAthina and Co-Athens play an important role. So Victoria Square project, as you said, is an evolving.
So you're a little bit difficult to understand. So maybe if when you turn off the video, it's easier to hear you.
Do you understand me now? Yes. So Victoria Square project is an evolving social sculpture created in 2017. As Dina explained, it is a contemporary artwork, while at the same time it is a physical space of reference for the neighborhood, which acquires its meaning and value in the context of urban development around this particular urban area. Victoria Square project is located at Victoria neighborhood and Victoria Square. Victoria area is inhabited mostly by migrants and people with lower income, while Victoria Square has become today, in current time since 2015, a symbol of the refugee crisis. As you may have already noticed, we call and feel Victoria our neighborhood and its residents our neighbors. These are and have been the main values of VSP since its foundation. So we highly believe that this area, by being a mosaic of culture, provides the appropriate background for exploring all the new qualities and methods which state that immigrants and refugees can actually offer to the community. So currently, as I said at the beginning, VSP enters a new era, and under the curatorial concept, who is a contemporary Athenian? We have developed a 2-year program aiming to highlight the diverse shades of the Athenian identity through artistic practices and collective research. In that context, we have designed a program called the Co-Living Room. So at the ground floor of our premises is the place we call living room, and that is the evolving social sculpture. As living room, we define a place where people get to know each other, have a cup of coffee or tea, and it has big wide windows that allow us to connect with the urban environment, create a dialogue with the passerby, and a sense of transparency. So the co-living room is an invitation to redesign Victoria Square Project's living room through an inclusive and collaborative design process, along with the neighbors of Victoria Square. So revolving thematically around the daily practice of sharing coffee and tea, a daily performative action that unites the majority of communities living in Athens and abroad, I must say. The project aims to create a public sphere of equal discussion about art, design, and public space that will be materialized into the design and production of objects for a co-living room, created through an intercultural design fusion and reflecting the new contemporary Athenian identity being formed. So one of our main partners with the co-living room project is SynAthina, through their program Co-Athens. Through that project, we attempt to identify the elements that define an inclusive Athenian society, that define a collective identity of the contemporary residents of the city through the design and aesthetics of the space. It is very important for that that particular area of Athens, because it is really dense and its residents come from different culture. So for that reason, we highly value the support of our partners to the transformation of the living room, as we an organization that act exclusively in a specific area of Athens and has cultural exchanges and strengthens the region's community with the support of the municipality organization, and at the same time bring the municipality closer to the community, which is also very important.
Thank you so much, Joanna, and we look forward to seeing the continuation of the collaboration with SynAthina at Co-Athens. Mentioning again the Leipzig Charter, I'm just quoting a mention on how evident is that local authorities have a very critical role and responsibility to safeguard and enable such initiatives by the civil society, such as the one mentioned at Victoria Square project. And we see that it's very, very crucial to encourage this feeling of trust for the authority, together with this collaborative governance notion. So I'd like to invite Amalia to tell us a bit more about how those initiatives have developed over time across the globe as this new citizens' engagement phenomenon, and how can we actually strengthen urban governance to ensure that common good is at the center and enable citizen initiatives as the ones mentioned to flourish. So, Amalia?
Okay. As briefly as I can, I just cannot help myself saying how really interesting were the two first examples of Barcelona and Brussels, and so close to what you're doing, guys, Harris and the team of SynAthina in Athens with Curing the Limbo. I hope in the panel, Harris will develop this a little bit, but both the irony as it was described of Barcelona having homeless refugees on one side and a large number of empty buildings and empty flats in Athens was one way that when we co-authored the design of Curing the Limbo, that was the riddle we wanted to solve, how to put those things together. And they've been doing incredible stuff, very close, but also with new ideas, very close to the Barcelona model, but also close to the Brussels model, Because as Joanna was saying, and Harris, it's not only about finding a home, but becoming part of the community. So all this co-Athens effort is to make people belong to the city as equal citizens to the other citizens, particularly the active citizens that are active in the public sphere. I can't help myself comparing these examples because they're so close and one can learn and enrich so much. I'll go back just very, very briefly to the SynAthina is just the platform that allows for these ideas and models to emerge. And because the Leipzig Charter refers so clearly on the systemic change needed behind those examples in the long term, and the word transformative cities comes up also very much, those platforms that have existed in the last decade, as Harry said, are very good examples and experiments that one can build on to make the Leipzig Charter more applicable. I mean, it's really an opportunity to look around to those cities that have already attempted a new way of governing. When it says multi-level governance, of course, it means that those cities that have attempted this have dared to share not only sources of money with other partners, but also power. Now, it's not all cities that can do that easily, and that is something that the next decade has to find a way to support this to happen, and giving more confidence to administrations that have difficulty being as flexible as it is needed in order for this to happen. You know, it needs some kind of humility on the part of officials to share their power with the partners, either in the vertical or the horizontal scheme of things, with other levels of government or with other stakeholders of the city. And the Charter really has to really function as a backbone for this confidence, let's say. I think that we will draw a lot of examples also from cities that do not turn, it's not only thematic, it's not only turning into solutions around social challenges like homelessness, refugee integration, but also other types like designing neighborhoods and placemaking and the environmental issues. I think all those things, we call them very often social innovation, which is a word that is missing, in my view, from the Charter, but which is a very hopeful notion, though, because it's about the way by which those challenges are faced. And it's quite optimistic also to see that the OECD at the moment is writing an extensive report on what social innovation is. So it touches upon those aspects. We see the commissioning turning some funds towards social innovation and new centers that will be able to monitor and support the ecosystem. That's just a positive note to say that somehow maybe Europe is maturing towards the direction of digesting the Charter in the next 10 years. So thank you very much. Did you hear me?
Yeah, we heard you perfectly.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Amalia and Joanna and Harris. Just to round up a few things, and Harris will be with you at the roundup panel in shortly. There's a lot that can be said for this type of initiatives across Europe and globally, and it always comes up how the role of local authorities is so crucial in enabling those initiatives to further develop. And especially today, in a hopefully very, very soon post-COVID pandemic society, there's going to be a huge importance for a community and a city. And someone mentioned it this morning at the Productive City session, how the COVID experience could potentially become a great catalyst for change within the European cities and the way cities operate. And it has been historically, if you like, in times of hardship, civil society always tends to be the one that steps up. And this wave of social solidarity that we saw in Athens when the financial crisis hit Athens, or later on with the global refugee crisis and currently with the COVID pandemic, we see that the civil society, this work needs to be further rooted in community, businesses and closing this road to reinvention, if you like, for cities cannot just be done by civil society or the public authorities separately, but there is a lot of, as Amalia mentioned, and Haris as well, systemic change to build this sustainable environment. And we really hope with the Leipzig Charter launch at the end of November, there's going to be a stronger European common vision. And the public authorities will invest more in this transformative partnership between state, citizens, groups, and most importantly, bring back new and old citizens of the city in the center of policy-making approach. So thank you. Would love to connect more with other European cities. If you'd like to discuss anything in more detail, I'm going to share now the contact details, which they're already as well, I think, on the booklet. You have the speaker's booklet, but I hope you can see now our contact details. Feel free to contact us directly to discuss anything in more detail, and we look forward to the roundup panel. Haris will be there with you. Thank you again.
Well, thank you all for all the information. And you just talked or picked up the situation of COVID-19, and this was just a question also which came in from from the audience, which was about how did the pandemic affected the platform's initiatives? And it sounded now to me nearly in a positive way that people even got more active. Did I get this right, or what was the effect on COVID-19?
Haris, would you like to tell us your experience?
Well, yes, definitely. I mean, as we said in the beginning, I mean, the initiative, the citizens' initiatives are fast and responsive, and they were fast and responsive during the COVID-19 period. I mean, the networks of citizens and I mean, they were active in Athens into different levels and different forms and different types and different themes, from social initiatives, helping people, delivering food or helping people that are living in the streets, to crafts and artists doing crafting in the beginning, masks for COVID, or doing a number of other things, even creative things. We saw that happening in Athens. All these communities spreading their work around the city and supporting several aspects of everyday life in the pandemic. I mean, the citizens have been active, and we have been mapping that with SynAthina. We have been able to map that with SynAthina and also communicate that with the municipality, which I think needs this kind of knowledge of the city that sits inside their houses,
And there's also another question from the audience, also directed to you, Haris. How does SynAthina get involved in collaborative urban governance with other stakeholders like civil society, public and private stakeholders? So how do you make this happening?
I would describe it as a project-based process. I mean, the collaborations are happening around the project. So there is a goal, there is a specific goal, there's a priority that is described by the city, by the citizens, the society, and the municipality. And around that project, we're crafting this and experimenting on those collaborations. We had the empty building stock in Athens, which had been one of the major issues in the city, and we had been working over this issue, reactivating a publicly owned municipal market in the city. And around that project, we collaborated with civil society actors, NGOs, private donors, city services, public authorities in general to create, to devise a solution around that issue. Now with refugees is the same thing. With refugees we have Co-Athens, but we have a much larger program around it, which involves global NGOs working with housing issues, similar projects like the ones that we heard before. And we have the University of Athens, which has a very huge knowledge around the issue of integration. We have the citizens collectives. So it goes around the project, and around the project, which is a priority of the city, we craft all those different kinds of collaborations.
Much. Well, thank you very much to you all, to you four, for presenting us the information about SynAthina and also other work you are doing. So I would now say, before we start with an example from Gdansk, that we make now a short 5 minutes break. So stretch your leg, get a coffee, whatever you have to do. So let's meet in 5 minutes again, which would be at 5:30 Central European Time. So. Okay, welcome back. I hope you all could refresh for our last presentation, which I would like to invite Magdalena SKIBA, who is head of the unit for local cooperation and social innovation in the city of Gdansk, to present their approach, tools and policies, how they try to ensure social innovation and social inclusion in Gdansk. So, Magdalena, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. I am really honored to be the part of this discussion. I obviously will be referring to the Leipzig Charter, and I will be happy to tell you the story of Gdansk, the city which you might probably remember from the big solidarity movement, which 30 years ago led to collapsing communist system in the Central and Eastern Europe. But what is very important, this heritage of solidarity is still present in our city, and we are still working on keeping this idealistic, maybe this idea still vivid. So now I would like to share my screen. So I will be starting from here.
Okay.
It's obviously it's not so comfortable to be the last speaking, because
sorry, you just have to put on your presentation mode so that we can see the full screen of your presentation. So it's like perfect.
Okay. So when I was preparing for this, I was just thinking, what does just city mean to us here in Gdansk? And as I thought of it, it's being the just city. It's more about people and the relation and how we deal with this. I would like to be. I will be in my presentation more like philosophic and reflecting what we do here than the presenting the specific project. It will be more like overview than like presentation of the project. I think that when we are talking about people and relations in the city, we have to be sure that we are including, that we secure that people in all people in the city have the equal access and have this, and that the most vulnerable groups are in the mainstream and are visible in the city. And social innovation is the it's also a sort of tool we can apply. It's the way of bringing change in the city. When some years ago we were working with the other cities in URBACT project Bustino, which is boosting social innovation, and working on it, we were trying in this project to define the role of the city administration in boosting social innovation. And we made a sort of finding in this project that being a booster, the administration can be a booster for social innovation when it takes over the role of being a broker. And what does it mean to be a broker in the city? It means that we need a new way of governance. We need a new profile of civil servant, and we also need new improved relations. It means that we all need the internal change in the administration, because it's more about coming out of box, and change in the mindset when we want to be the brokers in the city. It's this brokerage. What does this brokerage role means? There are some rules, some values which are attached to this role, and these are the basic ways of governing, and the co-creation, integration, networking, partnerships, citizens empowerment. These are the only way of governing. If we want to be the brokers. And this has a strong influence on the policy making, on the tools which we use to make this policy, but also to implement this policy. And there appears also the big necessity for the proper space. Every action in the city needs proper space. And it also means that we have to change the position we stand on, to how to cooperate with and involve local communities, how to involve our citizens. We are talking about inclusion, but the inclusion, it's not only this most popular meaning when we put vulnerable groups into mainstream. The inclusion is also how we include all our citizens in the circle of active citizens. So this needs also the new profile of civil servant. The civil servant playing this brokerage role. It's not the person who is sitting behind the desk and as stiff, and but this role needs new competences and the new roles, and we need people who are able to join potential, who are able to do networking, who can recognize resources we have in the communities, and we the civil servant have to be such people. So, and it's I don't want you to believe me that it is, and just think that it is a sort of theoretical concept. It's something we put in our daily work in the municipality of Gdansk. We try to reach the communities. We try to reach our our active citizens, but we also try to reach vulnerable groups and try to give the voice to all these people. So this is the philosophy of being open and solidarity. And obviously, to be that approach builds the new relations. We have to base our relations with our citizens on the especially important is the trust, the trust, the partnership, and obviously we have to do networking. These are things which are I think obvious. So what is just city in practice? How we envision it in our policies? What tools do we use to put this, to create and co-create these policies, and what space and places we need to exemplify the way we do policies, how we involve people into policy making, and how it is also refers to inclusion. I would like to present to you two pieces of our policies: immigrant integration model and model of equal treatment. What is interesting, both these policies, they are legal acts. The local law acts passed by the local parliament. They were co-created with the big groups of stakeholders, like over 100 people involved. It was the open process, but there were also people invited, people representing different city players, and also people representing and being the final beneficiaries of these policies. So the immigrant integration model is about how the city wants to deal with newcomers to Gdansk. To be honest, we are not in the situation that that we have a lot of refugees and we have a crisis of refugee and immigrants. We are just preparing ourselves. There is a big group of immigrants in Gdansk, but it doesn't mean that and we want to be ready and we want to be welcoming newcomers to the city. The other is the model of equal treatment. This is the policy which gives the direction to how to deal with the how to equalize the chances and how to combat discrimination. So this is the way of policy making was exactly the same. The same. We have different other policies from the inclusion point of view, which are very important, like housing model, like accessibility, like policy for people with disabilities, and all of them were co-created with the local stakeholders. And what tools do we use to decision in the decision making and in the policy making in Gdansk? The first one, which is maybe the most innovative one, this is these are citizens' assemblies. It is our way to exercise deliberative democracy. We have already organized three assemblies. The random sample of citizens is chosen, like 60 people who meet together, have 3 gatherings, and during this gathering they get introduced and they deliberate on the current challenges to the city, and then they give the recommendations, and these recommendations are voted by the assembly, and if they get 80% of votes for, the mayor will implement the recommendation. It means that the citizen assembly has a true influence of the city. These 3 topics were, it was air pollution in the city, how to improve quality of air. The other one, how to prepare city for floods and heavy rains. And the third one, which was very interesting, was about how to activate citizens, how to make the city inhabitants active. We work in the policy making. We work with different working groups, then these working groups change into thematic councils. These are the bodies which monitor and sometimes steer the implementation of different policies. And referring to immigrant integration model, there was as a result, there was also the immigrant council consisting of immigrants living in Gdansk, and there was also an equal treatment council, which is the monitoring body of implementation this model. Participatory budget is also one of our tools. We allocate like €5 million a year to this budget. 20% of the participatory budgets go to the citywide project, 80% to neighborhood projects in the district of Gdansk. We have also several local funds dedicated to initiatives of the NGOs, civil society organizations, but also to informal groups and individual citizens' initiatives. These local funds are dedicated to young people or to senior citizens, but we also have the neighborhood fund, and we also have the social innovation fund. This social innovation fund is supports ideas on the very beginning stage of the projects. This fund also goes with the specific standard of supporting these innovators. So, like sort of incubation. And what is important to have our community active and involved, and also taking over the responsibility and facing the challenges they meet in the neighborhood. There are spaces and places needed. When we say about the space, I mean sometimes also not only physical space, but also the mental space. For many years, we have now been implementing the project of neighborhood houses and clubs. The formula is that it is the space run, the place run by a local organization, NGO, and they are usually located in the city premises, which are rented without fee for these organizations, and their main their activities are based on local needs and local resources. We have also a social hub. This is a specific place and a specific space, which was also a product of our Bustino project. And now we work with another transfer network, an URBACT program to find out the way for co-management by such spaces, places by the local communities. This social hub, it's a sort of social innovation and incubator, the place open to different initiatives of citizens, of organizations, but also of solidarity economy entities, that they have the co-working place and space to meet and work together there. And the last on my list is the European Solidarity Center. This is a big cultural institution which is which was erected to save all the historical documents from the solidarity times, but it's not only about cherishing the history, it's also about how to implement solidarity in our daily routine. This everyday solidarity project, which is about enabling civil organization to find the place, and also to enable different groups to take part and integrate and take part and educate. That is the inspiring place, but more like historical, but also more like solidarity for every day. So coming to the end of my speech, I would like just to share this the reflection that for us the just city concept, it's very much about sharing. It's about sharing the power, sharing the wealth, sharing the responsibility. It is it is something which is on. It's like meeting point for administration and the citizens. So let's.
Oh.
I think that my time is over, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, it's not easy speaking. I'm very much about. I love talking to the people and about this remote mode. It's not for me. I have realized.
Well, thank you very much. And I think what's interesting in with your example is, I mean, before the projects we had more or less they are project related, but you really more focused on how there needs to be a systematic change in city administration, and that you need, let's say, a new profile for the people who work in the city administration, who are open to co-produce, to co-work, and to support the bottom-up initiatives. So I think this is an important add-on, finally, to make everything work, because you need the third sector, the grassroots organizations, but you need also a city administration which is open to work together. And I think when then these parts join their forces, I guess then really something valuable can come out of it. So thank you very much. And I think now we have 15 minutes left. So I would like to get over to our panel discussion with now all our speakers. And there is a growing emphasis on participation and co-creation reflected in the new Leipzig Charter. I mean, it's not really something new. Participation, it's on the topic. I mean, even the 60s was important. But yeah, it got, again, stressed not on the participation, particularly also the co-creation approach. And here, Harris, a question to you. This co-creation, I understood, has been really a key feature in your work, in your projects. So could you tell us what have been the positive experiences because of this co-creation approach, but also what difficulties did you encounter and how have you dealt with that?
Well, first of all, I mean, co-creation and participation, the basic and most important presuppose for participation is to put different people from different backgrounds who are interested into a specific solution work together and create this safe space where those different stakeholders interact and exchange ideas. I'd say that this is the first and foremost and most important feature of participatory and co-creation approaches. But I would like to say that I would describe in 4 different pillars this very basic characteristic or presupposes of those co-creation activities. The number 1 has to do with about understanding, is about reading, is about understanding the context, is about understanding a community, investigating closely, doing field work, mapping down, and collecting all those different stakeholders, those different people who could be interested into providing an idea and collaborating with each other to provide this a solution to a specific challenge. And how do you do that? You do that by reaching out a lot, or also by providing the digital tools. So, for example, with SynAthina, we have the digital platform. The digital platform is a crowdsourcing mechanism where all those different stakeholders come to us. But also with the digital mechanism, you miss many things. So you might want to do some field work. And with Curing the Limbo and Co-Athens, we did that extensively by visiting ourselves and spending months into investigating closely neighborhoods and communities in Athens and collecting all those hidden different stakeholders of the city who would be a very important add-on into the developing of a solution for the municipality. Now, the second pillar, I would say, that is about facilitating those synergies among those different people and also those different stakeholders, including the municipality. And there you have to provide a safe space where people can interact, they can exchange ideas, and you can be able to nurture these ideas into something tangible. With Co-Athens, we did that. Also, we worked over 4, 5, 6 months to create this safe space among refugees and locals and public administration, and we tried to nurture collaborations among each other. This was, of course, very, very challenging because people are coming from completely different backgrounds and have completely different needs, and not necessarily share the same common visions. The third pillar I would describe as the way you need to evaluate the models that you build and the processes that you use. So it's about building models of evaluation that involve quantitative and also qualitative data. I mean, evaluation is also something very, very important in all those kind of participatory processes, because you see what are the results of what you do with all those different stakeholders. And the fourth and very, very important part of this work has to do with advocating, is about changing mindsets, pushing upwards the findings and prototypes that you have been testing, and try to change the mindsets of especially not only the public authorities, but also the society mindsets, because it's those two things. So I'd say that through this kind of different projects that we have been working along the way with SynAthina, we have many positive experiences. But all those positive experiences, I'd say that come out of the processes, mainly from the processes. It's about spending time with other people and putting those different backgrounds and people together to work in a collaborative way. I think this is the most I'd say the most important positive experiences that we have from SynAthina. But also we have very positive experiences from the results. The results which are coming out slow, you need to spend a lot of time, to invest a lot of time, and they're not very, very easy and not very, very fast. We know that municipalities are somehow committed to urgency, and especially in cities like Athens, which is facing challenges, like urgent challenges, the municipality is committed to urgency. So is for us, I mean, it has been difficult. It's one of the biggest challenges is to communicate with the municipality and attract the municipality in such kind of processes. But I mean, we have positive experiences from results. For example, when we created this model of reactivation for a publicly owned property, and we opened it up into the public. That was also, a very, very positive experience. But the positive experiences, I think, that are coming out of the results are very, very few, because they're very, very slow.
For this further explanation, Magdalena, well, key principle of the Leipzig Charter is the place-based approach, and what you just described to us is that, yeah, the place-based approach is really a key on how you want to work, or how you are working on social innovation and social inclusion. So what is the importance of the place-based approach for your project and your work? Like, how would you tell it to another person to convince that this is the thing to do?
Yes, we besides all this project connected with the physical spaces, it's also the territorial approach. Our city is divided into 35, so we call it auxiliary units, which means that they are not legally independent, but they have allocated budget, they have their local councils, and they inside this budget they can make local decisions how this money will be spent on this we call this auxiliary unit district, but it may be a little bit confusing because it's not a regular district. It's closer to the concept of neighborhoods. but we are also working how to be very close to the people in this districts. This is also the key service provision close to the service users and to the place where they live. There's also the way how we use local resources, how we use this social base of the neighborhood, how the local institutions, organizations, and citizens are involved in solving local problems, but also in influencing the quality of life in their neighborhood. So this is obviously attached to the idea of neighborhood houses and clubs. The difference is the size and the duration of opening of the place. But this is also because the concept is similar to the community centers concept, but it's more oriented to the local community and to local resources and to local activists and to taking responsibility of the local the local community. So this is the part of this place approach we have.
Okay. Thank you. Besides this place-based approach, the Leipzig Charter also speaks about the importance of urban policy for the common good. And I think, in particular, in the projects of in Habitat 3 and in CALICO, for me, these are projects which really pick up on the common good. So, what is your understanding? Well, in the Leipzig Charter, it's described the common good, what it is or could be. So, for me, it would be interesting. What is your understanding of the common good? It's the same as in the Charter. For what is it due about, and how can it be best implemented in urban policies and urban projects? So, if maybe Arthur could start, and then Natalia, if you could add to this.
Sure. Yeah, the idea of the common good is an interesting concept. In the Leipzig Charter, it's mentioned as a way to provide, I mean, there's the idea of bringing public services, not leaving people behind, but there's also the idea of the common is very important. I think the community land trust is part of the commons movement. And in order to provide a common good, you have to follow the idea that you have to give back the city to inhabitants and away from just the wealthy few, and that will create a common good if people have the city in common. And that's what the community land trust is trying to do with the putting lands into a trust that is partly governed by inhabitants. And the commons, it's a bit of a paradigm change in urban policy. That land should not be privatized, but it should be left to inhabitants to decide what happens to the plots that are next to them. And the thing is that privatization of land takes away from citizens the right to use and to access their own city. So this, in my understanding, this is really taking it away from the common good. And the CLT model, it allows inhabitants to decide what will happen to those lands rather than just give all the decision to the people who were able to buy the land. And yeah, so there is the top-down approach of providing public services. It's super important, but it also has to take into account what the citizens want and actually give them the capacity to do what they want with their cities. Yeah, I think that's mostly it.
Okay. Thank you. Natalia, what would you add to this from your perspective from Habitat 3?
I agree with Arthur that transforming the city to leave no one behind is the key to the common good, and especially to leave no one behind when they are the most vulnerable. So our idea of providing affordable and accessible homes, and also the support on the tenancy for those who need it most, is empowering people to actually exert change by themselves. Again, I think the connection is not very good.
Connection was good. We could hear you very well.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm sorry. We have a storm here, and I think it's important that the quality of the connection. The idea of renovating homes is both sustainable, more than building anew, and also implementing of spreading out the homes, so there's no concentration, so there's community integration. And to end, I say that public provision with city part of the change. We are part of the change. City councils and regional governments, social organizations.
No, we cannot understand. So now maybe it's better to turn off the video.
Turn off the video already.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, well, I was saying that people are the change. We are the change. The idea of provision has to go together with citizenship involvement, which is all my other colleagues have been saying.
Okay, no, that's fine. So, well, the last question I would like to give to the audience, and there's one question which is directed, I think, at Magdalena. There's the question: how are participants recruited and selected for the different tools you showed? For example, for the Citizens Assembly. You have to unmute yourself. You have to unmute.
This is the random sample, so they are pulled from the inhabitant lists accordingly to be representative. There are several factors. This is the gender, the age, the education, and the place of living, the part of the city they live in. So according to these 4 criteria, they are randomly chosen from our inhabitant lists.
Thank you very much to you speakers, yeah, that you had the time for sharing your experience, your project with us, with the audience. And yeah, I wish you all the best and all the success which you need, and definitely you will have for your further work, and not only the activities you presented, but also all the other activities which you're going to implement in the future. Because I think